I'm back from being dead! The f happened to my walls? Yeah, after my cat brutally murdered me a few weeks back, I had some time to reflect, and I decided that I would finally play the bad Wario game.
Wario World is a contradiction. It's a video game starring Wario that somehow nobody seems to care about.
That's a f***ing hate crime!
I recently had some time to kill after being killed, so I played the entire thing, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I actually had some solid fun with it, though it does have its fair share of problems. But I'm getting ahead of myself. For now, I'd like to ask this simple question. Where are all the Wario World fans? Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this game doesn't have any fans at all. Hello, one or two die-hard Wario World fans watching this. We see you, we hear you. But for being the only 3D platformer starring this lovable goon, you'd think this title would have more of a cult following, right? Instead, it's just that one Wario game that most people only recognize because of its incredibly crispy box art. Anyway, I just want to talk about this one for a bit. Bear with me here. For some backstory, Wario World released in 2003 everywhere except Japan, who had to wait until 2004 to get their hands on it.
They needed a year to prepare.
It's a 3D platformer with beat-em-up combat and some light puzzle solving. You play as Wario, big surprise, in an effort to regain his stolen treasure. And speaking of treasure, here's the first weird thing about this title. See, unlike the previous Wario Land games, which were all 2D platformers made and produced by Nintendo, Wario World was developed by a studio called Treasure. The supposed story is that Nintendo wanted to work with them again after the success of their previous collaboration, Sin and Punishment, but I assume that Nintendo hired them for this job either based on their name relating to Wario's favorite thing, or for their award-winning work on Tiny Toon Adventures Buster's Bad Dream for the GBA. Yeah, that was probably it. Anyway, the game is broken up into 4 worlds, and each world features 2 levels and a boss arena. The levels are incredibly linear. I'm not exaggerating, some of these levels are literally straight lines, but despite the simplicity, I honestly did enjoy the moment-to-moment action. Wario controls quite well. He's nimble and can pull off all sorts of weird moves like this mouth vacuum and his patented elbow jab. He's especially fun to handle in combat situations where he can wah-haw some different wrestling moves. It's dumb fun and never managed to feel boring to me. You make your way through the levels, collecting money and beating up enemies along the way. That's the main gameplay loop here. There are also these pits sprinkled around that feature quick challenges inside. Some of them are quick puzzles, and some are even platforming gauntlets like the floodless levels in Mario Sunshine, and these are definitely the game's highlight. Finding them is rewarding, you never know what to expect, and you need to complete a certain amount of them in order to unlock each level's boss, which all look like sleep paralysis demons for some reason. Oh, also you collect these little sprite guys who give you hints. I don't know, I didn't care for this. Some of them tell you how to solve problems before you even reach them in the level. It's really stupid. And that's pretty much the entire game. I've never played it before, but it only took me a hair over 4 hours to complete. And that included me taking several breaks as well as a 40-minute phone call with Nintendo because they were taking forever making me troubleshoot my drifting Joy-Cons before letting me send them in. Fucking thanks! It's a very brief game is my point, and the gameplay is simplistic and direct with little variation as you go on. Repetitive is another word for it. It can honestly be quite repetitive. Don't get me wrong, it's still a decent amount of fun regardless, but I kinda had to shut off my brain to enjoy it for what it is, you know? But yeah, all that brings me back to my original point. Where's the devoted fan base for this game? It stars Wario. We love Wario. It might not be perfect, but it's a silly and strange little oddity, and as nostalgia for the GameCube era rises, I'd really expect this one to be relevant now more than ever. And speaking of the GameCube,
This f***ing segue again.
there was another game that I kept thinking about while I was playing through Wario World. It's a game that's similar to this one in more ways than one. Like Wario World, it's a Mario spin-off that started off as a tech demo featuring exploration in the 3rd dimension. Both games include creepy boss fights, a focus on vacuuming up money that directly ties into your final score, and an emphasis on replayability. And both games suffer from similar problems as well, including that aforementioned repetition as well as linearity and short length.
That's right, I'm talking about Luigi's Mansion in my Wario video. I'm out of control!
Luigi's Mansion has always been an interesting game to me. It's one of my favorite and most played of all time, and it was the first of 2 GameCube titles I ever owned, so I have a lot of nostalgia attached to it. But stepping away from all of that, and I am more than aware of all of its problems. It is the same thing over and over with, I don't know, 6 main enemy types? Catching boos sucks, no pun intended. Some challenges are way too cryptic, and the game is so short. I personally think that its length actually benefits it as it never outstays its welcome, but I do still think that it's too short for what it is. But despite all of that, Luigi's Mansion is still regarded as an absolute classic. It's revered enough to have a legacy tab on Wikipedia, so that's how you know we aren't fucking around here. It was even remade for the 3DS, and it's surprisingly not terrible on that system, as long as you have a spare nipple, that is, otherwise it's kinda garbage. It also did well enough to get 2 sequels, eventually. Do you see what I'm getting at here? despite their many similarities and their many shared shortcomings, one of these two Mario spin-offs is still going strong today, while the other is basically a relic of the past. And it's weird, right? It's part of the reason why I've spent my whole life thinking that Wario World was bad. I see nobody talking about it, it's left no lasting impression, it just sorta happened. It sold really poorly too, it didn't even crack the top 30 bestsellers list for the GameCube, even Pikmin outsold it, and that was a brand new franchise at the time. So why is that? Why does this decent little game starring such a beloved character feel so forgotten?
I've been up all night trying to figure this out. I crunched the numbers and I think I finally have an answer. It's just kind of unremarkable.
The sad truth is, Wario World feels like a game that doesn't need to exist. I did like it, but it honestly escaped my brain like 2 hours after finishing. There's not much to say about it, it just is. Let's go back to Luigi's Mansion for a second. For all of that game's shortcomings, the main reasons why people love it so much are its atmosphere and mechanics. Nintendo fully committed to the Haunted Mansion theme, and it was so effective that myself and countless others still criticized the sequels for being more lighthearted outings, despite them being objectively better in most other ways. But in the original, things were allowed to be creepy. Not terrifying, but creepy. The music was atmospheric, the ghosts were sincerely out for Plumber Blood, there were some sinister implications like all the dead children or the ghost dog. Remember the ghost dog? That's f***ed. But beyond the incredible vibe, it is the most satisfying thing in the world to catch the ghost in that first game. Even though you do have to do it over and over again, the feeling of twisting your joystick all around, feeling the resistance of ghosts wrestling away from you, when you manage to suck up a portrait ghost in one uninterrupted swoop, I live for all that stuff. It's why the boo catching doesn't work as well. There's no real struggle there. You just aim and hold down a button and then they escape the room and you have to go find them. Ugh. Luigi's Mansion is a flawed game, about as flawed as Wario World honestly, but these two elements alone are enough for so many of us to regard it as something truly special. Meanwhile, Wario World is just kind of a 3D beat 'em up, you know? It's fine, I had fun. I wish Nintendo developed this one. It's lacking that final layer of polish, that little extra something. I think this game could have been truly special like Luigi's Mansion is. The movement is solid, Charles Martinet gives an Oscar-worthy performance, the boss fights are great, I adore the challenge rooms, and all in all, it is pretty neat. But that's all it is. There's nothing that makes this game truly shine, unfortunately, all the way down to the muddy visuals and forgettable soundtrack. And that's without even touching on all of its little issues. Like, pretty much all of the overworld enemies are reskinned clones, there's no real challenge until the very end, and while it isn't boring, combat is definitely missing that oomph factor you'd expect in a game like this. Your moves never feel quite as impactful as they should. Combine all of that with the linear levels and pathetic length, and you get Wario World. A strange little piece of Nintendo and their fever dream GameCube era. Nothing more, nothing less. It's a funny thing playing something like Wario World. All my life I thought it was the bad Wario game, but the reality is much more disappointing. The reality is that it's just fine, and maybe I would have preferred a train wreck here, at least then I'd have more to say about it. I hope Nintendo comes back to this idea one day. The Wario Land series is rad, and I enjoy me some WarioWare and Wario's fucking woods! But Wario in 3D is so great, we deserve more views of his plump ass. Hopefully next time they make something a bit more special though.
And that's it. I really enjoyed talking about Wario today. Maybe I'll only talk about Wario moving forward. Yeah, I'll be the Wario guy. Please tell your friends about the Wario guy.